Hello everyone and welcome. In today's tutorial, I'll be showing you step by step how to convert a Photoshop design into a WordPress website using Divi. Now this is part 2. In part 1, we went ahead and we designed this sort of like frame of where all our content is going to go. So I'll look at this as kind of like a wireframe because this has all the placeholder content. Now let's take a look quickly at what we are trying to emulate. So if I come over here, this is the design that we are trying to design very closely to. So as you can see, this is well laid out and it has quite a lot of elements that we can apply in our design using Divi. Okay, so this is what we'll be trying to design today. So as I mentioned, this is part 2. If you haven't watched part 1, I recommend that you go and watch part 1 because that just shows you how I went ahead and put all this together. Okay, so before we get started, today's tutorial is made possible by divicake.com. Check out their huge selection of Divi themes, layouts, and plugins. The link is in the description below. And also, if you're new to web design and you'd like to learn how to design websites using WordPress, I have a course which is absolutely free. So go ahead and enroll on that course. The link is in the description below. And also, if you want to design websites using Divi and also using all these techniques and layouts that I'll be showing you in today's tutorial, I have also a course which has a 50% discount. So I recommend that you use that link in the comments box below and you can get that course at 50% discount. Okay, so without wasting a lot of time, let's dive in and let's get designing. Right, so right now I am on our website. So the first thing we're going to do is to add our slider images. So I'm going to enable the visual builder. Right, so now that the builder is enabled, the first thing I'm going to do is to come over here into my slider settings, my module settings. Right, so this enables me to go into my full width slider settings, and this is where we're going to do the bulk of our changes. So I'm going to start off with slider 1. So there's also a little gear icon here that you have to click to go into that. So I'm going to click on that. And then first of all, I'm going to change my title to 100% organic, right? Because this is pretty much what we have here, 100% organic, although this is an image. Now, before I continue, I'd also like to say that this slider here has been made using a plugin called Revolution Slider. It's a very popular slider. So if you want to go and use that slider for this design, you can go ahead and do that. But what I'm trying to do here is to try and design this layout as closely as I can using Divi. Okay, so let's carry on. So 100% organic. So that's what I have here. And let's see what we have. We also have raw milk and grass-fed beef. Okay, I won't be typing all that, but I can just leave content here, which we can use as dummy text. Right, so I'm just going to adjust this a little bit until we have just a little bit of text. Right, okay, so I'm pretty much happy with that. And we're not going to need a button, so I'm going to remove the text which says click here. So now we just have 100% organic and your content goes here. Great. The next thing we're going to do now is to customize our text and make it really look bold. So I'm going to come here to design. And we need to start off with a title text. So I'm going to click here on title text, increase the size. So right now I'm using the slider. So you can see as I use the slider, the size is increasing. This is great. Now we really want this to stand out. So we want to make sure that this is bold. So I'm going to come here to title font weight. So click on that, click on ultra bold. So now you can see it's really bold and it really stands out. Now here's the thing. As you're designing, you need to make sure that this design looks brilliant on all mobile devices. So to make sure that's in check, you want to come over here to this little icon here, and then you want to click on tablet. Okay, so now that I've clicked on tablet, we can see 100 is on top, organic is on the bottom. It's okay, that looks fine, but let's take a look at how it looks on the smartphone. So if I come over here to the smartphone, we can see here we have a problem. The word organic has been split and now it's not looking great. So what you want to do now is to just make some adjustments until you get the full word organic. So this is where you want to come in and make those adjustments. Great. So now that we have that in place, I'm going to come back over here to the desktop, and I'm also going to go into this text which says your content goes here. Right. So that's body text. So I'm going to come over here, click on body text. So I want to make this bold. right? Because I really want it to stand out as well. Right, so with that, I'm going to increase the size. I think about 30 is fine. So we're going to do what we did before with the main title, and we are going to come over here to this little icon, make sure it's looking great on the tablet, and that's looking fine on the smartphone. Okay, so we can see here that this is split into 2 lines. That may be okay in your case if you want, and you can always come here to the line height and just make sure you do your adjustments on the line height. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave the line height as it is, and I want to keep my consistency and just make sure that your content goes here is in 1 line. So I prefer it that way. Okay, so now I can go ahead and work on our next content, which is the background image. Okay, so back over here to design. In fact, I need to go back to my slides, and then I need to click on the gear icon again, and this time we're going to come to background. Okay, so on the background here, we can see we have a color. And over here on the 3rd tab, this is where we can use to add our image. So I'm going to click the plus button, and the image I'm going to use is this one here, the first image. And by the way, if you take a look here, we have the dimensions of 1920 by 900. So just make sure that you use similar dimensions. So I'm going to click upload an image. And now we can see that our image is in place and it's covering that whole slider area, which is great. Right, so with that in place, I mean, we can go in and make some further adjustments and make this cover the whole space and so on and so forth. But we're going to keep things simple here. Right, so I'm going to go back to my slider settings. So now that we've put in some effort into creating our slider, making sure our text is a certain size, I'm going to delete these 2, right? And then just clone this one, which I've just created. I'm going to clone it twice. And then I'm going to go into the second one and add my second image. So I'm going to delete this first one here, click the plus button, and I'm going to add my second image, which I prepared. Click upload an image. And there we go. We have our image. Now my slider area is all sorted. I'm going to click on save, and then I'm going to save one more time. So if we come over here, we can see when you mouse over this area, we have the arrows that come up here. So we can click on that, and then it cycles through all our images in our header area. Fantastic. Now let's move on to the next thing, which is the header 1. So we want to make sure that this looks great. And you can see here that there's a lot of space between the title here, header 1, and this divider line. So before I continue, what I want to do here is I want to change my design mode. So I'm going to come all the way here to the bottom here, expand settings. In fact, if you haven't activated your modes, what you want to do is to click these 3 little dots here on the left, and then you can customize this by clicking here on the click mode, hover mode, and wireframe mode. So mine are all selected. So that's where you want to go if you want to activate those modes. So the reason why I'm using this is because I want to see how much space it is between all my modules. So to do that, I'm going to click on click mode. So when I mouse over here, I can see where the problem is. So here on heading 1, we see that the space is below this title. So let's go ahead and fix that. So I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click on my module settings, and then now I'm in my text settings. So what I need to do now is to come over here to design, click on spacing. So if you want to adjust that space, you want to use margins. Okay, so I'm going to come here to margin bottom, and then I'm just going to drag it. So you can see that's a bit too much. So I'm just going to bring it down to about, let's say 14. Okay, that's much better. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and save. Next, I'm going to come into this divider, and then I'm going to click on it, click on the settings. And now I'm going to go into my design, click on color. Now I'm not happy with this color because it doesn't match the type of website that we're designing. So I'm going to change that color by coming in here and pasting my color just like that. Right. So now that I have my color in place, I'm going to go ahead and save. That's looking great. Next, let's move on to our gallery area. So I'm going to click here to enter my settings. Okay, so now I'm going to add all my images. So I'm going to click the plus button. So these are the 4 image icons that I'm going to start by adding. So I'm going to click this one here. Let's click on select. And now you can see it's been added. Click the second one. Click on select. To the third one. and then the fourth one. Excellent. So you may be wondering, where did I get these images from? So let me just go and cover that with you. Right, so these icons here are not from Elegant Themes. So I use a website called Icon Finder. So in here, you can search for your icon. Like for example, in the search area here, I searched for delivery van and this came up. So this is what I downloaded. And also, if you come over here to Icon Finder, the great thing about this is if you search for your icon, they have options to either buy them or use the free one. So here you can see we have a premium button. So if you click on premium, this will show you all your premium icons. And when you click, let's say on one of these, normally it shows like a pack which goes with it. So if you look down here on the bottom, these are the other icons that could work with this one that you have selected. So I really like that because it allows you to have icons which are uniform, and that is great. But we also have an option where we can go with the free ones. So if you click here on free, that means all the icons that are going to show here are all free. So then you can just click on it like that and click on download PNG, and this gets downloaded onto your computer. Okay, so that's how I managed to get these icons. So I'm going to close that. So our icons are now in place. Let's take a look here and see if there's anything that we need to add. Right, so this seems okay. We have a border around it. The next thing is the button. Let's take a look at our button, and we have our button in place. So that's great. So let's go ahead and save. Now let's move on to the next part, which is this area right here. So let's take a look at how it looks. So we have a title here and that little line on the bottom. In fact, we have all this already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate my mode, my click mode. So again, here we can see that the issue here is with the heading. So I'm going to click here on heading. In fact, to make things easier, I could just come here, copy and paste it here. But I'm just going to go in and fix that quickly. Click on design, spacing, and it's the margin bottom that we need to adjust. So right there at 12, save that. So I might as well come here and do the same. I'm going to delete it. And then I'm just going to copy and paste it here. Okay, great. And then finally, I just need to come in here and change my color. So again, I'm going to go into the settings, design, click on color, and I'm going to paste my color in here. I'm going to save, and then I'm going to add it back here as well, color, and I'm going to paste the value of my color in here. Great. So now that I have all this in place, I'm going to go ahead and save. The next thing we need to do is to add our image. So let's take a look at what image we need. So this is the app. So I'm going to come over here, click on this icon, and we need to add our image. So the image in here, I already have it in my media library. So I'm going to select it, upload an image. Now our image is in place. I think that's all we need to do for this section. Okay, moving on. Let's go on to the next part, which is this area right here. So to make things easier for me, I am going to copy and paste. So let's save this first. So I'm going to copy the row. Then I'm going to come over here and paste it. Okay, and then I'm going to delete the top one because we don't need that anymore. So now that's in place. Excellent. So if we take a look here at this design, we can see that this is a blog because it's pulling all this information from the blog, and this is the latest news. So what we want to do is we want to go into our website and add all our blog articles. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to come over here. To make things easier for me, I am going to open our website in a new tab, and then I can add my blog articles that way. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and click on new post. So let's call this news 1. We're going to add some dummy text. So to do that, I'm going to go to Lorem 2. So I'm just going to copy a paragraph of text, and then I'm going to come back here and paste the text in here. Now, over here on the side, for this to work, you need to make sure you add a featured image. So let's take a look here at what images we have. So we have images of food. So that's what we're going to try and add. So I'm going to start off with this one right here. Set featured image, publish. So now what you want to do is to add all your articles. So I'll just do one more. So I'm going to click on add new. So this is news 2. I'm going to paste my text in here. Add my featured image. Set featured image. Click on publish. And if you want, we can just make a quick preview. So I'm going to click on view post. So we can see that our post is in place, which is great. Now, if we come back over here and refresh, what you'll notice here is now we have our blogs with our images. So that's how this area here can be populated by just adding all our images and all our blog articles. So go ahead and add those 2 remaining ones. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to fast forward and just do the remainders, and then we move on to the next section. Okay, so now I've added all my articles and they're all in place. And let's just take a look here and see how it looks. So I'm going to make a slight change in the layout. So I can see here we have 4, but I want to make these slightly bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change these to 3. And then I am going to save, come back over here to our row settings, design, and I'm going to change the size of this width. So I'm going to click on use custom width. I'm going to change this to percentages. So right now it's on 80. I'm going to just bring it down to about, let's say 70. So I prefer having these nice and big. So that looks much better. Save this. And then we want to add some rounded corners here because that seems to be the ongoing theme over here, starting from the top. So let's go in and add our rounded corners. So I'm going to click here on my module settings, click on design, and then we're going to come over here to border. So throughout our size is 4. So you can see here, I've just added that and that looks much better now. I know it's very slight, but it does add that little bit of design and consistency. We might as well do the same over here on this image because we haven't done that. So again, I'm going to come over here to design, click on border, and we're going to set this to 4 like that. And let's see if there's somewhere else where we haven't added it. So that seems fine now. Okay, let's go ahead and save. Great. Now let's move on to the next section. So I think this one is done now. Let's take a look one more time. Okay, we've got our latest news. We've got all that information. Right, so now we need to come and replicate this. Okay, so I'm going to click here and let's add that information. So the first thing I'm going to do is to add our title that goes here. So I'm going to hover over this and we are going to copy this row and we are going to paste it right here. So I know it's gone on the bottom. So all you have to do is to drag it to the top. And by the way, if you haven't seen how I did it, all I had to do was to hit Command C and then to copy and then Command V to paste. If you're on a PC, it's Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Great. So I have all this in place now. Now I need to add my image that goes in the middle here. So I'm going to click this gear icon, click this area here, and the image that I need to add in there is the image of this milk. Click upload an image. So now my image is in place and that looks beautiful. So I'm going to save this. Now I need to add these sort of buttons, but I can see here that we can replicate this by actually using the text module. Let me show you how to do that. So back over here, these are image modules, so we might as well go ahead and delete these. And I'm going to click this plus button to add our text module. Select it. Right, so let's see what it says. It says healthy food. So I'm just going to type healthy food. So this is the only one I'm going to make, and then we're going to try and just copy these, because once you know how to do one of them, you can do the rest of them. Okay, so let's start with our background. So let's add our background color, and this is going to be a very light gray, like that. Okay, so that's a good starting point. Now let's go back to our, let's change this to a title. So I'm going to highlight it. In fact, we don't even need to change this to a title. We can come over here to design and make all those changes there. So I'm going to click on text, and we're going to increase the size of our text to about, let's say 20, and let's make it bold. So I'm going to select that. Great. Now we need to add some padding because as you can see, the text is so close to the borders. Okay, so to do that, I am going to come over here to spacing, and we are going to add our padding. So, but now what I want to do is to make sure that the padding I'm adding to the top and the bottom is the same. So I've activated this chain. Now I'm just going to drag this until I'm happy with the size. So let's go with, let's say maybe even 30. Let's try 30. Okay, I'm going to do the same here for the left and right. I'm going to increase that to about, I think 20 is fine. Okay, so that looks good. Now I'm going to go to the border, and we are going to add our rounded corners. So we're going to add 4, and you can see here, ever so slight, I've just added that, and that looks brilliant. Okay, now if you want to make this text link to some place, you can always go in and add a link, and let me show you how to do that. If you come over here to content, click on text. If you highlight this and then you add a link, you can just use this chain icon here and then add your link over here in this area. And if someone clicks on that text, it'll take them to that link. But for now, I'm not adding that link, so let's just keep it simple. So I'm pretty much happy with that. And now I'm going to go ahead and save. Okay, so now we have our healthy food in there. I think I can actually make this row slightly bigger because it's a bit too narrow. Let's come over here to our row settings, click on design. I'm going to go into sizing, use custom width, and let's use 70%. Like that. I think that's much better. And I think this button can also be increased because our image is huge. So let's go back and adjust our button there. So I'm going to save changes. And then I'm going to come back into here, into our module settings. And all we're going to do here is to make our text slightly bigger. So instead of 20, let's bring it up to about, let's say 24. And then we're going to go into our spacing. Let's increase this a bit. Okay. Right. I think that looks much better. Let's go ahead and save. So all we have to do now at this stage is to just clone these and add them into position. So I'm just going to do this a few times. Right. So over here, I'm going to delete these. And then I'm just going to drag this into position now, like that. Excellent. So that's looking great. Now I can come into this image here and make it smaller if I wanted to. So let's click on this image settings. Now we're going to go into design, and let's start off by adding our borders. So I'm going to click on border, and we're going to add our rounded corners and make them 4. And now I am going to change the size. So I'm going to click on sizing, and this is where we can adjust this by just dragging it like that and then centering it. So that looks much better. In fact, we might even go even a bit more to down up to about 80%. Okay, let's save this. Right, now I can see I have quite a lot of space here. So we can adjust that by going into the gutter width. So let's go into our settings here for our rows. Click on design, sizing, and we need to use gutter width. And we're going to bring this down to try 2. Okay, that looks much better. Let's see what happens if we put 1. No, that's a bit too much. So let's leave it at 2. Okay, so I'm pretty much happy with 2. Okay, so that looks great. I'm going to save. Now, what we can do here as well is we can add some space over here above this button here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click here on module settings, design, spacing, and we are going to add a custom margin to the top. So I'm just going to bring this down a bit until I get to about, let's say, 90. Okay, that looks great. So I'm going to copy this one here, by hitting Command C. I'll delete this one and I will add it right here. And then just drag it to the top. Okay, so that looks much better now. Let's take a look here and see what this looks like. Okay, so it's quite close. What they've chose to do here is to have everything in the same height, but that can be achieved by making sure that the image that you choose here is the specific size. So right now I went with this, but you know what? It's close enough, but you get the idea. Okay, so now that we have this in place, let's move on to the next part. Right, so let's scroll down. So here we have these images. Okay, so I'm going to use a blurb in this case. So before I go into that, I'm going to come into my row settings and we're going to change the size to about 80%. Use custom width, change the unit to percentage. So I'm happy with 80%, and on the gutter width, I want this a bit closer together. So I'm going to add 2 in there. Okay, that's much better. I'm going to save. And now I am going to go in and make my customization. So the first thing I'm going to do is to add my image. So I'm going to click here, image and icon, and then I'm going to add my image. Right, so I'm going to start off with this image right here. Upload an image. So you can see here that it's automatically added onto this area here, which is great. I'm going to save this. Move on to the next one. Click on the settings, image and icon, and I'm going to add my second image, which is this one right here. Like that. Okay, so now we have all our images in place. I'm going to save this. So as we take a look here, in fact, this may be too wide. So let me go in and make a slight adjustment to this. So I'm going to click on design, sizing, and I'm going to reduce this to about 70% because that was a bit too much. Okay, save. Okay, this is much better now. So what you can also do is you can go in and customize these titles and make them, the way you want. Right, so what's missing here is the heading. So I'm going to come and copy it from here. And then I'm just going to paste it on the bottom here. Okay, so that's looking great. Let's take a look at what we need to go to next. Right, so here we have these 2 images and the titles. Okay, so I'm going to come back here and just replace our images. So I'm going to come in here and go into my module settings and let's add our first image. So my first image here is going to be of this cow. Upload an image, save that. And then I'm going to come in here, add my second image. And this is going to be my second image. Upload an image. Great. So all that is in place now. And then what I need to do as well is to just adjust the size of my row. So I'm going to go into row settings, click on design, sizing, and we are going to use custom width. Unit, set this to 70%. Okay, so that's looking great. Right, so that's how we add our content there. So on the bottom here, I just need to increase my padding as well because this is a bit too close to the edge. So that looks much better now. Okay, so this area here is fine. In fact, I might need to go in and adjust the headings here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to come here to the bottom and activate my click mode and then click on heading 1, go into the settings of heading 1, click on design, spacing, and then I am going to adjust my margin top. In fact, let me scroll so I can see what I'm doing. In fact, it's margin bottom. So you can see here that we need it down to about 12, which is fine. I'm going to save this. And then we're going to come into this little divider here. Click on the divider settings, design, spacing, and we're going to do the same. So we're going to drag this to the bottom, up a little bit to about, say, 10. And we need to change the color. So again, I'm just going to add a color right there like that. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead now and save. Great. So all this is taking shape now. What we need to do now is to just copy this and paste it over here so that we just have everything all in line. Okay, so we're done with this area here. So let's move on to the next part. So over here, let's take a look at our preview and let's see what we have. So all we have here is just a lot of text, and then we have one main image here. So that's simple to do. So I'm going to come over here and we are going to add our image. So I'm going to click here on my module settings, click this area here, and the image I'm going to add is this one right here. So I'm going to click upload an image. So now our image is in place. I can now go ahead and save changes. So as we can see here, we need to add a bit more text to make this design really look much better. So I'm going to come to Lorem 2 and I'm just going to copy all this like that. And then I'm going to come back into my text module and I'm going to paste the text just below that. That may be a bit too much, so I'll just delete one more paragraph. Okay, that's much better. And then I'm going to do the same to the second paragraph. So I'm just going to copy this, save it, and then I'm going to come back over here and paste some more text. So that looks much better now. Let's go ahead and save. Right, what I may want to do as well here is to just keep my consistency by changing the size of my row. So I'm going to come to row settings, design, sizing, and we need to set this to use custom width, change the unit to percentage, and set this to about 70%. Right, so now we can see that our layout is looking much better. And then let's go ahead and save. Okay, so now let's add our logo images. So I'm going to click here and I have some images already loaded here in my media library. So I'm going to select this one, click upload an image. So you can see here it's been updated on the bottom here. Click on the next one. In fact, before I click on the next one, I need to save this first. Okay, right. So I've saved that. I'm going to come over here, do the same thing, delete this one, add an image. And I'm going to select my second one, which is Real Wave, upload an image, save it, do the next one. So this process is quite straightforward because all you got to do is to just go in and add all these images. But what I suggest is make sure they are the same size, because if you use different sizes, they'll be all over the place. So you want to use a software like Photoshop and use that to make sure that your images are the same size. Okay, so I'm going to add my last logo here like that. Great. So all my logos now are in place. I can go now and save. Right. So the next thing we're going to do now is to just make sure that our headings are all okay. So as I've always done before, it's only a matter of copying and pasting. So if I come over here, I can copy this and come all the way down here and I can just paste it in here like that, and then delete this top one. We don't need that anymore because the one I've just added here has the right sizes. We're going to do the same here. We're going to paste it and delete the top one. Great. So that's looking fine. That's looking great. Let's take a look at the website here and see what else we can do. So these are all our logos. And on the bottom here, we have these 4 columns for this footer. So we might as well go in and start working on that. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to come back over here, add a brand new section, click on regular, and we need 4 columns like that. So in these columns, we are going to add text modules. So I'm going to select my text module. So you can see here, I've just added my text by default, which is great. And we're going to change this background color to a really dark gray. So I'm going to click on background, add background color, and then I'm just going to add this dark gray like that and save. Okay, so let's take a look here. So here we have an image on the top. We've got text. We've got more services. So these are links. Let's see how we can add that. So over here, I'm going to click this plus button and we are going to choose sidebar. Okay, so for this sidebar now, we need to choose, these footer areas. So we can set footer area 1, footer area 2, footer area 3 in your sidebar. And then that's what will be added over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select footer 2, save it. And then I'm going to come over here to our WordPress website, click on, let's go to appearance. Okay, click on widgets. So just remember, we set it to footer 2. So here is the footer 2 area. So this is where we can add quite a lot of things in here. So we have all these options. So we have the navigation menu that we can add. So here I can select main menu. Let's call this our pages. In fact, what do they call it here? More services. Okay, they call it more services. So you can change this and call it more services if you want to. I'm going to click on save. Now I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to save my page before I refresh it, just so that I don't lose any settings. Right, so let's refresh this and see what happens. Great, so now we can see that our pages are now showing over here. So that's looking great. So now I can go in and make some customizations. So I'm going to click here on design. So we can go in and adjust our title text. So we can increase the size if we want to, like that. Let's make it 22. And the text size as well. Make it easier to read. Okay, save that. So now let's fix our width. So as we did before, we're going to come over here to sizing and we're going to make this full width and we're going to set this to 80%. Okay, that looks great. I'm going to save this. And over here, I'm also going to add a title to this. So to make things easier for me, I'm just going to come over here to our module settings and I'm just going to hit enter like that. And I am going to just use this as my title. I'm going to highlight it. Click here on paragraph, set that to heading 3. So you can see here that this has turned into a heading. So I'm going to come over here to design, heading text, go to heading 3, and we are going to change the color. And we're also going to come over here to the size, set it to 23. So that looks similar to that. Okay, save this. Okay, so we've got 2 more items to add. So these are testimonials and the contact details. Right, and also the social media stuff. Okay, so for the social media stuff, in fact, let's use our testimonial here. So I'm going to search for testimonial, select it. Right, so first of all, I'm going to go in and adjust my background color. So I'm going to click on background and we are going to just get rid of that background just like that by dragging this slider here. So this slider goes all the way from color all the way down to transparency. So that looks great. And let's take a look here. You see this icon here on the top? I don't want that. So let's see where we can get rid of it. So show quote icon, it's set to yes. We can say no. And now all we have is the testimonial, which is great. So I'm going to save this. And then finally, we need to add all our social media stuff and our contact information. So for our social media, I'm just going to search for social follow like that. So by default, we have these 2 added in. So I'm going to add another one. So my network here is going to be, let's add Pinterest. We're going to go back. Click this plus button and let's add one more. This time it's going to be LinkedIn. Right, so now we can see that we have all our 4 items there. And what we can also do is we can come over here to design and click on sizing. So if you want to adjust this, you can always adjust the width. If you wanted to, you can add borders. But for just to make things easier and not make this tutorial very long, I'm just going to leave this as it is. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to save. And then next, I'm going to add another module. And this time it's going to be a text module. I'm going to select that. And now in the text module, I'm just going to add a few lines here just to sort of like simulates what it would look like if we were adding some text. Some contact information. Okay, so let's just assume that that's our contact information. Now I'm going to drag this below this like that. And let's take a look at this one more time. So we need a title called contact. Okay, so I'm going to come in here again one more time and set this to a title. Okay, so I'm going to highlight it and set this to H3. Click on design, heading text, heading 3. We're going to set this to size 23. And we're going to go into the color as well and change the color. Okay, so that looks much better now. Let's go ahead and save. And if we wanted to, we could always come here and add our title as testimonial, and that becomes our testimonial. So let's take a look at this one more time. Right, so we have our 4 columns, and these seem to be quite closer together, so we might as well go in and just do that. That's a quick fix. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on row settings, design, and then I am going to come over here to sizing. In fact, I need to bring this down to about 70%. That's a bit too much. Okay, next I'm going to come to my gutter width and I'm going to set this to 2. Right, so you can see now they're a bit closer together, and then I'm going to save. Right, so I'm pretty much happy with this. All I have to do now is to make some global changes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to hit Command S to save. Okay, so the final thing now is to go in and do our global settings. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click here on appearance, click on customize. Right, so here we can start off with our header and navigation, but I'm going to leave that as it is. But the most important thing I'm interested in here is our text. So I'm going to come to general settings, click on typography, and our body text size is set to 14. Now, this is not the ideal size because this is a bit too small. So I'm going to come here and let's set this to about 16. That line height is fine at that. And our header text size is fine. So this is again where we can come and add our body color, our body link color, and also our body text color. But ideally with that, you need to have your color palette handy to make things easier. But that's all I'm going to do for now. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to exit the visual builder and refresh the page and then take a look at what it looks like. Okay, so you can see here the text has now increased and it's much easier to read. So this is our layout. Okay, so we can see it's quite closely resembles this. I know it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty much close. And if we come over here to the slider, we can always click and this will just cycle through the images that we have in the slider. Okay, so that's all I have for you in this part 2. Thank you very much for watching. And before I leave, this tutorial is made possible by divicake.com. Check out their huge selection of Divi themes, layouts, and plugins. The link is in the description below. So there you have it. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification. By doing that, you'll be notified every time I release new videos. Thank you very much for watching and see you in the next one.